Welcome to Creating Flow, the podcast where I, Joni Francisco, hope to empower women, helpers, and healers to unblock their energy and unlock their power. We're tackling the tough reality that many in the healing professions are often sacrificing their well-being in the pursuit of helping others. Not only do I believe this is just plain wrong, it ends up draining their vitality and diminishing their ability to serve. I've experienced this struggle firsthand and emerged with insights and strategies to break this cycle. That's why each week we explore practical methods not only to replenish your energy, but also to cultivate the abundance in your life. You'll gain actionable steps to fill your cup first, ensuring you can overflow with energy and serve others without burning out. On today's episode, I have Kandiee Campbell, who is the host of the Awaken Hope Show with Kandiee Campbell. It's a radio show with strategies to help one learn to let go. She not only helps people find resilience through difficult times and life situations, she also has used these tools to help herself heal. In addition to the host of the Awaken Hope Radio Show, she is an experienced grief and transformational coach, and she specializes in guiding individuals through the intricate process of healing from loss and trauma. In today's show, we discuss how the mindset and choice really impact your healing and growth, the strategies to get you out of the funk of the healing highs and lows, and the importance of holding your new story. But first, if you like what you hear today, then I would highly suggest you joining the Abundance of Flow community on School. Not only are there free, awesome AF trainings in there, we are building a community of other helpers and healers ready to have more abundance and flow in their lives. Let's journey together towards freedom in life, health, and business. The link to join is in the show notes, and I hope to see you there. Hi, Kandiee. Welcome to Creating Flow.
Hello. How are you? Thank you so much for hosting me. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into our conversation. And the time that I've known you, I've seen great recovery in your health. And I thought we would just start first with sharing a little bit about your health journey and your story around that. And we'll talk about some mindset things as we go along. And so we'll let you go ahead and just start with your story.
Okay. Well, let's see. Back when you met me was a couple of years ago. We were in a mastermind together, and I unfortunately had an episode where I basically was recovering from not only the loss of my mother, but also a major health diagnosis simultaneously. Basically simultaneously. I got one, and then I got hit with the other one. So they were at the same time. Both of them were challenging, but my health diagnosis was pretty grim when I got, the notification from the doctor. Initially, she didn't fully tell me the full diagnosis, but I think she was trying to save me from save me from going down a hole at the same time that I was losing my mother. But once I came back to Hawaii and had a face-to-face visit with her, I got the full story on what was really wrong with me. And needless to say, this led me to quite a journey. It's like anything, healing is usually it's not a linear thing. I wish it were, but it's not. It is oftentimes one of those things you go, like you referred to, hills and valleys. You go up, you go down, you go all the way around. And for me, this was just that. I had started my business. I was working on trying to figure out the direction of my business, process the loss of my mother, as well as process the loss of my health as I knew it. I had some setbacks. I had some challenges. But one of the things that I did, I made a conscious decision that I did not want this to take me down. I had watched, basically, I will share, I got diagnosed as being diabetic, and I got diagnosed with extreme kidney disease. Kidney disease I was on the verge of almost being put on dialysis. They put me on the list to replace my kidney because I was that critical. And it was startling. It really kind of made me reset things, rethink things, because I had watched my mother prior to her passing away go on dialysis because she had had her better of her 2 kidneys removed. Better being 40, the kidney that came out was at 40%. So you can imagine what the kidney that remained was left. It wasn't good. And my mom, she did dialysis 3 days a week. It was a 7-hour day for her, an hour out to the dialysis place, an hour back, and 5 hours sitting on, going through the process. So having seen that with my mother and knowing that that was my next outcome if I didn't do something different, I decided, I was like, no, I didn't. You go on dialysis and that kind of upends your life. And as you know it, you are tied to that machine. Yeah, they say, oh, you can do dialysis at home, but there's certain circumstances in which you can do it. And not everybody has that ability. So I was sitting there faced with, I had to make a change. I had to do something different that was going to bring a different outcome, because if I kept going the way I was going, dialysis was going to be in my future.
I never knew the part about your mom. So thanks for sharing that too. Because I can imagine, as we are going to get into this mindset piece, that having that so in your face at the same time was probably both really hard, but also kind of a mixed blessing now that you're through it, because you were able to see your journey if you didn't make a different choice. And I loved that you brought that up, that you actually got to make a choice in how you went forward. I would wager that that's the reason that you're doing so well now, is because you made that choice then to change things, right? You took your power back.
Yeah. Instead of just living in the subconscious mindset of it's just going to happen, and my mindset, unfortunately, at the time was not the healthiest. It was actually pretty low based off of the conditioning I had been exposed to when I was younger. And I had 40 some years of conditioning that was affecting my mindset. So yeah, I made a choice. I decided, I physically sat down with myself and I was like, I did not want to go the direction my mom had gone. I did not want to upend my life as I knew it if I could change things. And it was kind of I guess what my husband would call a come to Jesus moment, because I literally was faced with, I was at a fork in the road. You either go left and you change your mindset and you change your health, or you go right and you go the direction your mom was going. There, in my mind, I didn't have a choice. I did have a choice, but I didn't want to go the direction my mom was going. I chose to change it.
Yeah, you had things that you still wanted to experience, like a couple really great things coming up this year. I know that you want to be healthy and vibrant for. So those were things that look forward to in your life.
If you choose, well, they say, not making a choice is a choice too. So I could bury my head, which part of me wanted to at one point. It was just bury my head and just go, blah, 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 blah. This isn't happening. But I knew somewhere in the part of my brain knew that was not an alternative. That wasn't a choice that I could reasonably make and live.
Yeah. And live is that, like being vibrant and free, right? Location independent and things like that. Like, it was important that you change your decisions as well. One thing that I love just now that you said so beautifully and about healing is, those up and down valleys, right? And one of my core beliefs is that we have to let ourselves feel those in the moment. We have to let feelings come up. So would imagine even once you make the choice, then you have to continue to make that choice, right? Because you'll go down into a valley, maybe get a little bit worse physically or just have a bad day. And then your mind starts to struggle. And then you have to have some tactics to bring you back up. But one of those is actually letting yourself have that. What I always say, feelings are 60 to 90 seconds, and the rest is what we give meaning to, right, from our past experiences. But have that time of reflection and feeling and allowing ourselves to be low sometimes. It's not all this just high vibe all the time, but with the idea that then you get to make the choice to return yourself up to that higher vibration, right? And so what are some of the things you do both personally and for your clients to, bring them through those dips, allow them to be more resilient or have a better mindset?
Well, one thing I do for myself and I encourage my clients to do is, like you said, you've got to feel what's coming up. You can't bury your head. It's an alternative. You can. I always say you can, but it's not recommended you bury your head and just ignore it, because what you focus on, you continue to get that. So what I do is I encourage them to journal, get a piece of paper, get a notebook. It doesn't matter. If you've got bad thoughts coming out, just get a piece of paper and just write it. Do stream of consciousness writing, just write everything that's coming up. Doesn't matter about sentence structure. Doesn't matter about what's coming up. Just write it because you're trying to get it out of your head. As long as it's bobbling around in your head, it's creating problems in your body because it's got to go somewhere. And negative emotion has to, even if you just feel it, for 20, 30 seconds, it makes it easier to release. If you hold on to it, it gets stuffed.
Yeah. When it gets stuffed, what happens? Like when it gets stuck in the body, what is your idea of what happens?
The majority of us, we get stuffed in our body. The emotion gets stuffed and it gets compounded with other emotion that may be in there. Or if we are on a pattern of stuffing emotion, we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to, we don't want to face it. We don't want to feel it because I'm speaking to the choir when I say that it's hard to sit with negative emotion. When it comes up, it's painful. And in order for us to heal and to get to where we need to be, even back on the same path that we were on before we fell off that path, we have to sit with what's coming up. It has to kind of come alongside of us and be our best friend at that moment. And, that picture of, well, I don't want that. Most people don't want to have bad things right next to them. But it's one of the things I've learned in my journey is the emotions is coming up, not to see it as necessarily a bad thing, but to change that lens. You look at that emotion and see it as, what can I learn? What is it in that event or that emotion that I can take away? Even if it's just one small thing, it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be one small thing that just wants to show you. And if you can take away one nugget, it helps.
Yeah, I love that. That's another one of my core values is curiosity, right? Like just getting super curious. And the other piece about that I think is really important that you bring up is it to be our best friend, right? And there really is this piece of loving all parts of yourself that is super important during the journey. And that's loving your bad thoughts. That's loving your bad actions. That's loving all the pieces because there's a piece of you that craves that. And if we can just give that validation instead of resist it, it goes away. Like you said, it's like the same as sitting with your feelings for 30 seconds, but us allowing that energy to move through takes the power away from that negative thought or that negative habit versus laminating on it and making it bigger and bigger. Do you find that's the case too?
Yeah. Well, one of the pictures I always like to draw for myself and my clients, and like, if you have it's like a child, if you have kids, anybody who has kids, and now especially small ones, and you go into the grocery store and they're sitting in the cart and they're like, I want, mama. And they're reaching for things and they're grabbing things and they're trying to get your attention. If you're, you're going down the aisle or you're on your phone looking at your grocery list or whatever, and you're not paying attention to them, what do? They don't go quiet. They get louder.
Louder and louder and louder. Yeah.
A negative emotion, I like to look at it that way. I do a lot of visuals because it helps me to process them in a better way. Negative emotion is kind of like a child having trying to get a parent's attention. The more they want, the more that they're trying so desperately to say, pay attention to me, mom. And it's, if you just take that 20, 30 seconds to say, okay, what do you need? Give them a little time to say whatever it is they're wanting. It doesn't mean you have to give in to them. It doesn't mean you have to capitulate and go, okay, you can have what you're wanting. That may not be the best option, but you at least acknowledge what they're saying. They tend to quiet down until the next time, something else brings them back to mommy. But you may have to do that several times. But eventually your child learns that they're valued, they're seen, they're heard when their needs are popping up. And that's kind of like our negative emotions. It just needs to be seen or heard and, given a little bit of attention to say, yeah, I hear you. I see you. I may not necessarily like what you're presenting to me, but you are important. You're a part of me.
Yeah, that's lovely. And I also, the piece about, just want to bring up a belief I have is these negative emotions or limiting beliefs or things that we're stuffing down about ourselves, that they also start when compounded to make they show up physically for us, right? Like in sickness or disease or like external issues like procrastination and overwhelm and things like that. So if we don't validate them and clean them up, sort of say, like you said, get louder and louder, and then they present physically and in our external environment. And so those are always good time to take a check, right? And be like, oh, what's going on here? Like, this is not how I want to be feeling, right? And I love that about the journaling, and then sounds like journaling and then the subsequent validation, right? Like giving validation. And then what's another technique that you use with yourself or clients that seems...
Well, meditation works really well. If you're struggling with something, quiet your mind. Sit for. Most people, I have clients that go, "Oh, meditate. I can't." It's not that we can't meditate. We meditate all day long. We just don't always acknowledge it as meditation. When you're driving down the road and you kind of space out, and your cars moves, I don't know, 50 feet, and it's like, whoa, how'd I get there? You just went into a meditative state. You just don't acknowledge that that's meditation. Your eyes are open, but you can meditate, you just got a soft gaze and you're kind of in your own little bubble world. But meditation works. I also do emotional freedom technique, which is tapping. I find that to be really helpful to move negative emotion because it gets you out of that fight, flight, or freeze state and lowers the sympathetic nervous system that's activated and can bring you into the parasympathetic, which is the relaxed state, the calm state.
Yeah. And both meditation and tapping do that. And what I do find about tapping or havening or any deep touch or bilateral stimulation to the body is it brings in that sense of safety, even when it's not really there. And we haven't talked about this yet, but that's probably one of the most important first steps is to acknowledge that we are safe, even within, if we're having disease or symptoms, that coming back to that idea that we are safe so that our brain can actually flip that switch into that restore space instead of that fight, flight, or freeze, right? We got to be in rest or restore to actually have healing occur. So the more time we can spend there, the better. Yeah. And often my clients say they're bad meditators too, and it's back to that curiosity piece and also like just opening your idea of what you think meditation is, right? Because you can go for a walk and be in meditation. It's just not letting the thoughts get stuck really, right? Like how I kind of see that is like, if you're going to have thoughts, we're going to think thoughts. And if you can just be like, hey, thanks, I'm going to take care of you later, right? I'm sure you'll come back to me later. I'm going to let you go for now and readdress them in a different time when it's not as in your face or when you have calmed down so that you can actually have logical and strategic thinking processes versus run away from tiger.
Yeah. I do a different type of meditation for myself these days. I just sit there, I take some deep breaths and I kind of close my eyes and be in that moment, just close my eyes and let the thoughts kind of go past. Doesn't mean, we've got, I don't know, an average of 60,000 thoughts a day that kind of come through our head. Doesn't mean that we have to entertain them. They're all going to vie for our attention if we let them. The thing that we have to do is just for that few minutes, it doesn't take a lot of time to meditate, but for a few minutes, just to quiet your thoughts and let those thoughts go by. Get into breathing, focus on your breathing, focus on letting your breath go all the way down. You inhale and you let it go all the way down to your hips, to your thighs and out through your feet. Ground yourself in the earth. Sometimes you can do it where you're sitting. You can do it if you have to go outside. If you're not able to go outside, you can do it right where you're sit. Just close your eyes and imagine like a waterfall going from the top of your head, filling everything up. It can be waterfall. It can be light. It can be whatever you want it to be, breath. And just picture it going, closing your eyes, picturing it going all the way down, covering all parts of your body, clearing out everything that it comes into contact with, and taking it all the way down and taking all that stuff and putting it down into the earth. If you ground yourself, it will help you. You can get into that meditative state for however long you need it.
Yeah, I love letting it go, right? Like letting something else hold it for you. I love that idea. And allowing that transmutation of that energy to happen in the earth or up to source. I do both ways with infinity breath that I use. But it's just getting it out of your body, right? Like it is that intention that you're moving that energy in. Whether you believe it works or not, it does. So we'll just take it from some people that have been doing it for a while. It does work. And once you get used to it, you will also notice how your container then feels much more spacious. And then you can fill it again. It's a choice, right? Fill it with what you do want. Fill it back up with love or optimal healing or optimal functioning or something like that you do want, and letting the noise, I guess, for lack of a better word, leave. And you can then focus on what you do want. I love that idea of watching the waterfall. That really brings in that kind of guided imagery. It gives that part of your brain that likes to be busy a job and lets the rest of you relax, right? But in such a great way that you're focused on something very pleasant to most people anyway.
I mean, you're not standing underneath the water. You're just kind of letting it. It's kind of like, I don't know, I'm trying to think what it is that you go to like pools or something and you watch the water flow down and it's in front of you as you're not in it, but it's just kind of coming down right in front of you. And it's just serene and stuff. I love, being here in Hawaii, I have a weird relationship with water, but that's a whole different story. But I like being near it and watching it because it is very therapeutic and it is very cleansing.
Yeah, super cleansing. I heard the other day of this idea. You may be familiar with like Akashic records, or people talk about this area that all knowledge is, right? Like we all have access to all the knowledge that there is at all times. It's just being able to receive it and pull it kind of down. And I was listening to someone else talk about that water also holds all of that. And I thought that was really a different thought for me. I believe it. I also love water. Like I'm in it as much as I can. I'm in my hot tub like as many days in a row as I can be in the winter. And then I'm in the lake all as much as I can. And if I go on vacation, you better bet there's going to be some kind of water that I can swim in, right? But I didn't ever have that connection that water knows all as well and has just that ability, like you said, to purify, right? Like I really feel like it can do that for us. And so I do love the idea of the waterfall. When you were kind of in the depths of this, or as you were doing exercises on yourself to kind of bring you out of the illness or the symptoms anyway, were there particular things, if you feel like sharing, if there was particular mindset or like limiting beliefs or anything like that you noticed associated with the kidneys or the diabetic symptoms, or anything specific that you noticed that you had to, or that made a big difference in your healing? Is there anything that you were aware of at the time?
Well, I would say, I guess it would be, I had to replace the thoughts that I had that I was going to get, I couldn't heal from this, or I was going to be going down the same road like my mother. I replaced those thoughts with, I am healthy, fit, and trim, with affirmations and with beliefs and thoughts, and seeing myself in a different state. I had to visualize seeing myself in a different state and having my health. I'm not where I'd like to be. I'm still, I still have my end goal is to get off the meds. That is where I am working to go. I'm not there yet, but it's a process. I know that. I have to literally tell myself figuratively and, emotionally that I could overcome this. It wasn't the be all end all that, I got hit with some pretty heavy things, but it wasn't, I did not have to entertain that. And as my family would say, I stood my ground because I was like, no, this isn't the way I'm going to leave this world. It's not happening.
Yeah. So what I hear you say is that limiting belief was that your body wasn't going to heal, maybe, because you kind of experienced that with your mom. And so you kind of had that in, whether consciously at the time or unconsciously, or it was something that, maybe she had struggled with for a while. So you adopted it as a belief for yourself for a while. And then your new belief was that you could heal, right? And that you are already healed, like you're visioning yourself through the illness. And I think that's really key for a lot of people, is being able to hold the new story. And we talked about changing lens a little bit earlier, you said, and it's really like putting on a new set of lenses for yourself, right? Like, this is my new story and I'm not available for my old story any longer. And when that creeps up, kind of the same as meditation, you just like, oh, thanks for that reminder, but we have a new belief now. We have a new story, and that's where we're going.
Yeah, because you don't have to. We choose. It's all a choice. We choose whether what we will believe and what we entertain. If we entertain it, we get what comes with it. So my new story is I'm overcoming this to the point that I am going to come off of medication. I mean, my last appointment with my doctor, I've gone from having 8 vials of blood drawn every 3 months to going every 6 months now and only 2 vials of blood. My kidney decline for the past 3 months has stabilized. It's not declining anymore. Now, is it, am I where I want to be? Not quite yet. My A1C is really getting more manageable. My health, my heart, all the things that were impacted as a result of this are stabilizing. It's I just pull myself up on my big girl pants and I keep on walking. I don't know necessarily the direction of how this is going to all unfold, but I'm just like, okay. I have to also tell myself, I don't have to have the outcome. I don't have to have all the knowledge of how this is all going to work out.
Yeah. And I know you have some practice in universal law beliefs too, and you hold on to those. And I do love that piece about it, right? Like, the how is not really ours to hold. Like, we have the vision and we need to hold that. And we have our desire that drops in for us and we need to hold that. And then we move forward just one step at a time, which also really helps, I think, in a big journey of healing, is that it's like, oh, okay, well, this is my vision and my desire. And this is my next 1 or 2 steps, or this is how on a daily basis, I show up, right? I will bring in, just because I geek out on how the body holds things in different ways, right? And one of the things about having diabetic symptoms or kidney symptoms is not being able to see the sweet things in life. And that's a manifestation of a belief that could occur. It doesn't always, but that is one of the things that's housed in the kidneys or the pancreas. And for me, that reminds me of fun, right? And I'm always like so amazed, because in college, I dabbled a tiny little bit in ultimate frisbee, but I'm always like, that's your part of your fitness routine, right? Like, is ultimate frisbee, and you have fun. Like, you made it be something fun. And I can't help but, like, I kind of get a little goosebumps because we've never had this conversation before. But like, as part of your healing journey was to find stuff that was fun for you to do while you healed.
Yeah. I used to run a lot, but as I've aged, long-term running, I guess, has not always been my cup of tea as I've gotten older. I've kind of pushed back against that. However, yes, in ultimate frisbee, you do run. It's higher intensity, but I do enjoy it. And I can kind of go my own pace. I can defend, I can throw, if I start having challenges on the field, I just slow down. But I have fun. I go out there and I'm like, and I tell myself, I do this so I don't have to be on medication all the time, that I can manage, that my health can improve to the point that I don't need to be on a ton of different medication. Yeah, I'm still on medication, but I've definitely reduced down from where I started. So I love it. It's all about finding something that you can have fun with. And you're right. Fun is what I did not enjoy things. And now I'm going out and looking at and the fun stuff and what brings me joy.
That's amazing. I love that so much. The other piece I really like to bring listeners in is just, we've kind of covered a few things they can do for themselves. And the other idea of that is sometimes these things are really hard for people to see on their own, right? And it takes practice and diligence. And we talked about choice, but our subconscious is super sneaky sometimes. So that's where having a coach or a counselor or someone, a healer, come in and help you see where these beliefs are. And I know that's part of your practice, is helping people through resilience. And as a gift today, you brought the ability for them to sign up for and you can go ahead and explain that.
I offer a complimentary 30 to 60 minute resiliency session. Basically, we just go through and we talk about what your goals are, what you want to see, what you want to do. And I come up with give you some strategies that you can implement. And if you choose to work with me, that's great. We can go forward. If not, you have some tools, a couple tools to take with you to put into your invisible tool belt. I feel that everybody needs to have those tools, because whether you reach out for a coach or a therapist, you got to have something that's going to help you when you're faced with whatever you're faced with. When life happens and you're kind of going, oh my gosh, now what? You can pull out 2 tools and go, okay, I don't know where I'm going right now, but I got something that I at least can start with. And then you move into the next thing. So like I said, I offer, it's a complimentary 30 to 60 minutes, and you make a choice from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the link to that will be in the show notes, so you can find it easy to sign up with Kandiee. And I also just want to say, though, about that session, again, what really sparks for me in it is she's going to give you a few tools, right? So when you DIY stuff and don't have a coach, that's another thing I feel like really happens, is we can spiral down that rabbit hole of like thousands of techniques, and a coach or a guide or a healer can really narrow that in for you and help you find some things that A, you enjoy, and B, you can see the value in, and C, there's just a couple. Like, you don't have to do them all. You can just really get focused and just day by day follow those steps, right? Is there anything else that you would like to add to today, Kandiee?
The last thing I would say is, whether you work with a coach, whether you work with me or you work with someone else, it's important to have someone that you can bounce an idea off, or they can help you see that blind spot. Because even myself, I find myself hitting those walls sometimes when my mind is going a certain direction and it doesn't want to switch, but I have friends or my mentor that can go, consider this, look at it from this perspective. And maybe I've seen it, maybe I've thought about it, maybe I haven't, but it's also helpful to have someone that can guide you in that respect. So like I said, whether you work with me or you work with someone else, it's always important to have somebody that can help you see those blind spots, because we all have them.
Yeah. And what I love about that too is the vulnerability, right? But as coaches or healers, like, we have coaches and healers too that we still use, because even as you go up that spiral, I like to be like the spiral of healing. And I say new level, same devil, because most of the time the same limiting beliefs come in, right? And so it gives somebody, and especially if you start working with someone even a little bit long term, they start to identify those for you and be like, oh, remember last time you were coming up against a growth edge or a healing edge and this came up? I think it's kind of the same thing happening now. And I think that even the more influence and the more impact that you're making, the more important it is to have that person that can reflect that back for you. So just encouraging other coaches, healers, helpers, to go out there and find someone that can provide that for you. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kandiee. And thank you all listeners. And we'll see you again next week.
Thank you so very much, Joni. I am so super grateful that you hosted me on your Creating Flow with Dr. Joni.
Thank you. So amazing. You've reached the end of another episode of Creating Flow. And I want you to know I appreciate your presence, and to remind you, knowledge is powerful, but taking action is transformative. I invite you to take the next step to activate your full potential today by scheduling a complimentary 15-minute session with me. A no-obligation chat to identify the messages your body is sending you and how I can not only help you understand these messages, but teach you how to heal your body in order to have an abundance of health and energy in your life and business. Visit the link in the show notes to book a call, and I'll see you next week.